Athlete dates fat woman on a dare. Her secret transformation stuns everyone. The gym buzzed with the usual energy of a weekday afternoon. Basketballs bounced off the court, sneakers squeaked against the polished wood floor, and the laughter of teammates echoed through the space. Jake Daniels, the school's star athlete, sat at the edge of the bleachers, tossing a basketball back and forth between his hands as his friends surrounded him. "You wouldn't do it," one of them taunted, nudging Jake with his elbow. "No way you've got the guts?" Jake raised an eyebrow, his trademark cocky smirk spreading across his face. "What are you talking about? I'll do anything." Another friend leaned in, glancing toward the far side of the gym. "Alright then, prove it. Go ask her out." Jake followed his friend's gaze and spotted Lisa sitting alone on the sidelines, her notebook open as she scribbled something inside. She wasn't like the other girls at school. She was heavier, quieter, and seemed more comfortable in her own world than trying to fit into anyone else's. She was also the subject of far too many cruel jokes among his teammates. "You mean her?" Jake asked, feigning disinterest. "Why?" "Because," the first friend said with a laugh, "it'd be hilarious. Come on, big man. Let's see if you can keep it up for a week." The group burst into laughter, the challenge clear. Jake hesitated for only a moment before rising to his feet. He didn't want to seem weak in front of his friends, and besides, how hard could it be? It was just a dare. "Watch and learn," he said, tossing the basketball aside and striding toward Lisa. Lisa looked up as Jake approached, her expression shifting from confusion to mild suspicion. She wasn't used to people like him talking to her, not unless they wanted something. "Hey," Jake said, leaning casually against the bleachers. "You're Lisa, right?" She nodded slowly, closing her notebook. "Yeah." "And you're Jake?" "That's me," he said, flashing a grin. "So, I was thinking, maybe we could hang out sometime? Grab a coffee or something?" Lisa blinked, her brow furrowing. "What?" "I'm asking you out," Jake said, his tone confident but not pushy. "What do you say?" For a moment, Lisa just stared at him, trying to gauge his intentions. It didn't make sense. Why would someone like Jake Daniels be interested in her? But he seemed genuine enough, and a small part of her wanted to believe it was possible. "Sure," she said finally, her voice cautious. "Why not?" Jake's smile widened. "Great. I'll text you." As he walked away, his friends erupted into laughter, clapping him on the back as though he'd just scored the winning point in a game. Lisa, meanwhile, stared after him, a flicker of hope mixed with unease settling in her chest. The next few days were surreal for Lisa. Jake texted her constantly, asking about her day, making jokes, and showing genuine interest in her life, or so it seemed. They went out for coffee once, where he charmed her with stories of his games and listened attentively as she talked about her passion for writing. For the first time in years, Lisa felt seen. But in the back of her mind, doubt lingered. She couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. Jake's friends would glance her way in the hallways, their smirks and whispers setting her on edge. When she mentioned it to Jake, he brushed it off. "They're just jealous," he said with a wink. "Don't let them get to you." Lisa wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that someone like Jake could genuinely like her, that her weight didn't matter, and that she deserved to be treated like any other girl. And for a while, she let herself believe it. The truth came out in the cruelest way possible. Lisa had stayed late after school to work on an essay and was walking past the gym when she heard voices. She recognized Jake's laugh and paused, curiosity getting the better of her. But as she listened, her heart sank. "So, how's it going with your little project?" one of Jake's friends asked, his tone dripping with mockery. Jake chuckled, though there was a hint of discomfort in his voice. "It's fine. She's nice, you know?" "Nice," the friend scoffed. "She's a joke, man. I can't believe you're still going through with this." "She's not that bad," Jake said defensively. "It's just a dare, okay? She'll—" Lisa froze, her breath catching in her throat. She replayed the words in her mind, hoping she had misunderstood. But there was no mistaking them. Her face burned with humiliation as tears pricked her eyes. She turned and walked away, her footsteps quick and unsteady as she tried to put as much distance as possible between herself and the gym. The next day, Lisa didn't bother waiting for Jake to text her. She marched up to him in the hallway, her heart pounding with a mix of anger and heartbreak. "Lisa," Jake said, surprised to see her. "What?" "Don't," she interrupted, her voice trembling. "I heard everything, Jake." "Those? All of it?" Jake's face fell. "Lisa, save it," she snapped. "I trusted you. I actually thought you cared. But you're just like the rest of them." She didn't wait for his response. She turned on her heel and walked away, ignoring the stares of students around them. By the time she reached the bathroom, her tears had spilled over, but she didn't let herself cry for long. Instead, she stared at her reflection in the mirror, her jaw tightening. She wasn't going to let this define her. If Jake Daniels and his friends thought she was a joke, fine. But they were about to see just how strong she could be. That evening, Lisa sat down at her desk and made a plan. It wasn't about revenge, not entirely. It was about taking control of her life and proving to herself that she was worth more than the opinions of others. She signed up for a gym membership, started researching nutrition, and reached out to a fitness coach she had seen online. Her first session was brutal. Every muscle in her body ached, and she felt like giving up more than once. But her trainer, a no-nonsense woman named Marisol, wouldn't let her quit. "You're stronger than you think," Marisol said, her voice firm but encouraging. "You just have to believe it." Lisa nodded, wiping the sweat from her brow. She didn't believe it yet, but she wanted to. And that was enough to keep her going. As the weeks turned into months, Lisa's determination grew. The gym became her sanctuary, a place where she could channel her frustration and pain into something tangible. She started lifting weights, running, and pushing herself in ways she never had before. And slowly but surely, she began to see results, not just in her body, but in her confidence. Her transformation wasn't just physical. Lisa started setting boundaries, cutting out toxic people from her life and surrounding herself with those who genuinely supported her. She poured herself into her writing, using it as an outlet to process her emotions. For the first time in years, she felt like she was taking control. Months had passed since Lisa had walked away from Jake and the pain of his betrayal. In that time, her world had transformed. The gym, once a place of dread, had become her second home. Each day brought new challenges, but Lisa faced them head-on, her determination unshakable. Her trainer, Marisol, pushed her relentlessly, but always with encouragement. "You're stronger than yesterday," Marisol would say after every grueling session. "Keep going. You'll thank yourself later." Lisa started to see the changes, not just in her body, but in how she carried herself. The girl who had once shrunk away from mirrors now stood tall, proud of her progress. Her wardrobe shifted from oversized hoodies to clothes that fit her newfound confidence. And for the first time in years, Lisa smiled at her reflection without hesitation. Her mental health improved too. Therapy sessions helped her process the betrayal, not just by Jake, but by years of societal judgment that had shaped her insecurities. Her therapist encouraged her to write down her thoughts, and what started as simple journal entries blossomed into short stories, each one brimming with themes of resilience and self-discovery. Lisa had found herself, and she wasn't turning back. Jake, meanwhile, hadn't been the same since that fateful day in the hallway. At first, he had tried to convince himself that he didn't care. Lisa was just a dare, after all. But the more he replayed their moments together, the way she laughed, the way she listened so intently when he talked, the more he realized how wrong he had been. His friends teased him endlessly after Lisa confronted him. "Looks like you blew it, man," one of them said with a smirk. Not that it matters, but it did matter. Jake couldn't shake the guilt that gnawed at him. He had hurt someone who deserved better, and for what? A cheap laugh? His shame only deepened as time passed, and the emptiness he felt grew harder to ignore. One day, as he scrolled through social media, he stumbled across Lisa's profile. She hadn't posted much before, but now her feed was filled with photos of her workouts, her writing, and moments of joy shared with friends. She looked radiant, confident, happy, and completely out of his league. Jake couldn't help but stare, a mix of admiration and regret twisting in his chest. He decided to make a change. For the first time, Jake began questioning the values he had lived by. He distanced himself from the toxic friends who had encouraged the dare and started focusing on becoming a better person. He volunteered at a local youth center, hoping to use his athletic skills to mentor kids who needed guidance. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The school buzzed with excitement as preparations for the annual talent showcase got underway. It was a big event, drawing students, teachers, and even families from the community. This year, Lisa had decided to participate, submitting one of her original stories for a dramatic reading. As the night of the showcase approached, Lisa felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She hadn't performed in front of an audience since middle school, but this time was different. She wasn't the shy girl trying to blend into the background anymore. She was Lisa, strong, capable, and unapologetically herself. When the night finally arrived, the auditorium was packed. Lisa sat backstage, clutching her notebook as she rehearsed her lines. Marisol had come for support, sitting in the front row with a proud smile on her face. Jake was there too. He hadn't planned on attending, but when he saw Lisa's name on the program, he knew he couldn't stay away. He sat near the back, his heart pounding as he waited for her turn. When Lisa stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. She stood tall, her confidence radiating as she introduced her piece, a story about a girl who learns to embrace her own worth after years of self-doubt. As she read, her voice steady and filled with emotion, the audience was captivated. Jake watched, mesmerized. This wasn't the Lisa he had known, or thought he had known. This was someone extraordinary, someone who had found her power and wasn't afraid to share it with the world. When Lisa finished, the applause was thunderous. She smiled, a wave of relief and pride washing over her as she left the stage. After the showcase, Lisa mingled with the crowd, receiving praise from students and teachers alike. Marisol hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "You were incredible." "Thanks, Marisol," Lisa replied, her cheeks flushing with gratitude. As the crowd began to thin, Lisa turned to see Jake standing a few feet away. He looked nervous, his hands shoved into his pockets as he hesitated to approach her. For a moment, Lisa considered walking away, but something stopped her. She took a deep breath and met his gaze. "Hi, Lisa," Jake said, his voice softer than she remembered. "That was amazing. You were amazing." "Thanks," she said, her tone neutral. "What are you doing here?" Jake hesitated, searching for the right words. "I wanted to see you." "I wanted to say I'm sorry." Lisa raised an eyebrow, her arms crossing. "Sorry for what? For the dare? For lying to me? Or for making me feel like I was some kind of joke?" "All of it," Jake said quickly. "I was a jerk, Lisa. I didn't think about how much it would hurt you, and I hate myself for that. You didn't deserve any of it." Lisa studied him, her expression unreadable. "You're right. I didn't." Jake nodded, his shoulders sagging. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. And that I've changed, or at least, I'm trying to." For a moment, Lisa said nothing. Then she sighed, her stance softening. "Jake, I appreciate the apology. I really do. But my life isn't about you anymore. It never was. I've worked hard to get where I am, and I'm not going to let anyone, or anything, drag me back." "I wouldn't dream of it," Jake said, his voice earnest. "You're amazing, Lisa. You always were. I just didn't see it back then." Lisa nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Well, I see it now. And that's what matters." She turned to walk away, but before she left, she glanced back at him. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Jake." "I really do." Jake watched her go, a mix of admiration and regret filling his chest. He knew he had lost his chance, but he also knew that Lisa's story wasn't about him, it was about her. And that was how it should be. Over the next few months, Lisa continued to thrive. She completed her first 5K run, started a blog to share her journey, and even began speaking at local events about self-love and resilience. Her story inspired countless others, proving that strength came from within. Jake, too, found his own path. He dedicated himself to helping others, using his platform as an athlete to promote kindness and inclusion. Though their lives took different directions, both Lisa and Jake carried the lessons they had learned, forever changed by the choices they had made. For Lisa, the most important lesson was this: she didn't need anyone's validation to know her worth. She was enough, always had been, always would be. Lisa's world continued to expand in ways she hadn't thought possible. Her blog, which started as a personal outlet to share her journey, began to attract more attention. Messages poured in from strangers who found inspiration in her words. They told her about their struggles, their fears, and how her story had given them hope. Lisa responded to each one personally, grateful that her experiences could make a difference. One day, as Lisa was drafting a post about overcoming self-doubt, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from the organizers of a national health and wellness conference. They had seen her blog and were inviting her to speak at their upcoming event. Lisa stared at the email in disbelief. Her first instinct was to decline. What did she know about public speaking? But as she thought about everything she'd been through, she realized this was an opportunity to share her story with even more people. With a deep breath, she typed her reply, "I'd be honored." The weeks leading up to the conference were a blur of preparation. Lisa worked with Marisol to fine-tune her speech, practicing in front of small groups of friends and family. Each time, her confidence grew. When the day of the conference arrived, Lisa stood backstage, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her note cards. The auditorium was packed with hundreds of attendees, and the thought of speaking to so many people made her stomach churn. But then she thought about all the people who had supported her, the strangers who had reached out, the friends who had cheered her on, and the version of herself who had been too afraid to take risks. She was doing this for all of them. When Lisa stepped onto the stage, the applause was deafening. She took a moment to steady herself, her eyes scanning the crowd. Then she began. "I used to believe that my worth was defined by how others saw me," she said, her voice strong despite her nerves. "I let their opinions, their jokes, and their judgments shape how I felt about myself. But I've learned that true strength comes from within. It's about knowing who you are and refusing to let anyone else define your value." As Lisa shared her journey, the heartbreak, the struggle, and the transformation, the audience hung on every word. By the time she finished, the room erupted into a standing ovation. Lisa blinked back tears, overwhelmed by the response. After the conference, attendees lined up to meet Lisa. Some wanted to thank her for her honesty, while others shared their own stories of struggle and resilience. Among them was a young woman named Emily, who hesitated before stepping forward. "Hi," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to say, thank you. Your story, it's my story too." Lisa smiled warmly, taking Emily's hands in hers. "You're stronger than you think," she said. "And you're not alone." Emily nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. For Lisa, moments like this made all the challenges worth it. She wasn't just healing herself, she was helping others heal too. Meanwhile, Jake had been keeping tabs on Lisa's journey from afar. He read her blog posts, watched clips of her speeches, and marveled at how much she had accomplished. Every time he saw her name, he felt a pang of regret. But he also felt pride. Lisa had become someone extraordinary, someone she had always been but had finally allowed the world to see. Jake had spent the past year working on himself, volunteering at the youth center and mentoring kids who reminded him of his younger self. He had learned to listen, to empathize, and to recognize the impact of his actions. The boy who once thrived on arrogance and superficiality had grown into a man who valued kindness and authenticity. One evening, as Jake scrolled through his social media feed, he saw a post from Lisa about an upcoming charity run. It was a 10K event to raise money for mental health awareness, a cause close to Lisa's heart. Without thinking, Jake clicked the registration link and signed up. He didn't know if he would see Lisa there, but he wanted to support her in any way he could. The day of the charity run dawned bright and crisp. Hundreds of participants gathered at the starting line, their energy infectious. Lisa stood among them, her heart swelling with pride. This event wasn't just about running, it was about coming together as a community to support a cause that mattered. As the race began, Lisa fell into a steady rhythm, her feet pounding against the pavement. She focused on her breathing, letting the cheers of spectators propel her forward. About halfway through the course, she heard a familiar voice call her name. "Lisa." She glanced to her right and saw Jake running alongside her, his face flushed but determined. For a moment, she was too surprised to respond. Then she nodded, her expression guarded but not unkind. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice steady despite her exertion. "Supporting the cause," Jake said, flashing a brief smile. "And supporting you." Lisa didn't respond immediately. Instead, she focused on the road ahead, her mind racing faster than her feet. She wasn't sure how to feel about Jake being there, but she decided to let it go. This wasn't about him, it was about her. They ran in silence for a while, their strides sinking naturally. As they approached the final stretch, Jake slowed down, letting Lisa cross the finish line first. The crowd erupted into applause as Lisa raised her arms in victory, her face shining with triumph. Jake crossed the line a moment later, giving her a small nod. "You did amazing," he said, his voice genuine. "Thanks," Lisa replied, her tone neutral. She wasn't ready to forgive him completely, but she could acknowledge his effort. After the race, Lisa sat on a bench, sipping a bottle of water as she watched participants mingle and celebrate. Jake approached cautiously, sitting a respectful distance away. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said after a moment. "I just wanted to be here. To show you that I care." Lisa glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Why now, Jake? After everything?" Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because I've changed. Or at least, I'm trying to. You showed me that I needed to be better. And I wanted you to know that." Lisa considered his words, her gaze softening slightly. "I'm glad you're trying, Jake. But my life isn't about proving anything to you or anyone else. I'm doing this for me." "I know," Jake said quickly. "And that's what makes you incredible." For the first time, Lisa smiled. It wasn't a smile of forgiveness, but one of understanding. Jake might never fully make amends for what he had done, but she could see that he was sincere. And that was enough for now. As the months went on, Lisa continued to thrive. She completed her first half marathon, published a book of essays about her journey, and launched a non-profit organization dedicated to empowering young women. Her work gained national recognition, earning her invitations to speak at prestigious events and collaborate with leaders in the wellness industry. Jake found his own path too. He became a full-time mentor at the youth center, using his experiences to guide others toward positive choices. Though their lives took different directions, Lisa and Jake occasionally crossed paths at community events, sharing a mutual respect for how far they had both come. For Lisa, the most important lesson was this: she didn't need anyone else's validation to know her worth. Her strength, her confidence, and her happiness came from within. And that was a transformation no one could ever take away. Lisa's nonprofit, Empower Her, began to take off in ways she had never anticipated. What had started as a modest blog and a few community events had grown into a national movement. Empower Her offered mentorship programs, fitness workshops, and self-esteem classes for young women who had faced challenges similar to Lisa's. Her inbox overflowed with messages of gratitude and support, and every success story reminded her why she had started this journey. But with the organization's rapid growth came new challenges. Lisa found herself navigating funding applications, organizing large-scale events, and managing a growing team of volunteers and staff. The pressure was immense, but it was a challenge she welcomed. For every obstacle she faced, there was a moment of joy: a young girl beaming after completing her first fitness class, a letter from a participant thanking her for inspiring them, or a parent expressing how much Empower Her had changed their daughter's life. One evening, as Lisa sat in her home office reviewing a proposal for a new scholarship program, her phone buzzed with a call. She glanced at the screen and smiled. It was Marisol. "Hey, coach," Lisa said, answering the call. "Hey, superstar," Marisol replied. "Just wanted to check in. I haven't seen you at the gym this week. Everything okay?" Lisa sighed, leaning back in her chair. "Yeah, just swamped with work. Empower Her is growing faster than I expected, and I'm trying to keep up. Don't forget to take care of yourself," Marisol said gently. "You've come so far, Lisa. Don't let the pressure pull you back into old habits." Lisa smiled, grateful for Marisol's unwavering support. "I won't. Thanks for checking in. I'll be back at the gym tomorrow." "You better be," Marisol teased. "The weights miss you." The next day, Lisa made good on her promise. As she walked into the gym, the The familiar scent of rubber mats and the sound of weights clanging greeted her like an old friend. She waved to Marisol, who was spotting a client, before heading to the squat rack. As she worked through her sets, Lisa felt a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in weeks. The gym had always been her sanctuary, a place where she could focus on herself and block out the noise of the outside world. By the time she finished her workout, she felt recharged and ready to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead. On her way out, she spotted Jake near the free weights. He was helping a young boy adjust his form, his voice calm and encouraging. Lisa paused for a moment, watching him. He looked different, not just physically, but in the way he carried himself. Gone was the cocky athlete she had once known. In his place was someone who seemed grounded, patient, and kind. Jake noticed her and gave a small wave. Lisa hesitated before waving back. She wasn't ready to fully let him back into her life, but she could acknowledge the effort he was making to change. Months later, Lisa received an invitation to a prestigious awards gala honoring individuals who had made significant contributions to their communities. Empower Her had been nominated for an award, and though Lisa tried to downplay the significance, Marisol and her team insisted that she attend. The gala was held in a grand ballroom, its chandeliers casting a warm glow over the elegantly dressed attendees. Lisa felt a mix of nerves and excitement as she mingled with other nominees, many of whom shared stories about their own organizations and the lives they had impacted. As the awards ceremony began, Lisa listened intently as each category was announced. When it came time for the Community Impact Award, she held her breath. And the winner is Lisa Carter and Empower Her. The room erupted into applause as Lisa stood, her heart racing. She made her way to the stage, the spotlight bright and warm as she accepted the award. "Thank you," she began, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. Empower Her started as a personal journey, a way for me to take control of my life and prove to myself that I was worth more than the opinions of others. But it's become so much more than that. It's about showing every young woman out there that she is strong, capable, and deserving of respect. This award isn't just for me, it's for every person who has ever doubted themselves and found the courage to rise above. The applause was deafening as Lisa stepped off the stage, clutching the award tightly. She spotted Marisol in the audience, tears glistening in her eyes, and gave her a grateful smile. The recognition from the gala brought even more attention to Empower Her. Media outlets reached out for interviews, and Lisa found herself juggling a whirlwind of appearances and speaking engagements. Though it was exhausting, she relished the opportunity to spread her message on a larger scale. One day, during a live TV interview, the host asked Lisa about the turning point in her journey. "Was there a specific moment that made you decide to take control of your life?" the host asked, her tone curious. Lisa paused, her mind flashing back to the day she overheard Jake and his friends in the gym. "There was a moment," she said carefully. "I realized that I couldn't let other people's opinions define me. It wasn't easy, but I made a choice to focus on what I could control: my own happiness, my own health, and my own worth." After the interview, Lisa reflected on how far she had come. The pain of that betrayal had once seemed insurmountable, but now it was just a small part of her story, a story that was filled with resilience, growth, and triumph. As Empower Her continued to grow, Lisa began to think about her next steps. She had always dreamed of writing a book, and with the encouragement of her team, she decided to make it a reality. Over the course of several months, she poured her heart into the manuscript, sharing her journey and the lessons she had learned along the way. When the book was published, it quickly became a bestseller, resonating with readers from all walks of life. Lisa received countless messages from people who said her words had given them the strength to face their own challenges. One day, as Lisa was signing books at a local event, she looked up to see a familiar face in the crowd. Jake stood near the back, holding a copy of her book. When their eyes met, he gave her a small, respectful nod. After the event, Jake approached her. "I just wanted to say congratulations," he said, his voice genuine. "Your book is incredible." "You're incredible." "Thank you," Lisa replied, her tone kind but measured. "I'm glad you came." Jake hesitated, then added, "I also wanted to say thank you for everything. You changed my life." "Lisa, even if it was by showing me who I didn't want to be. Lisa studied him for a moment, then smiled. I'm glad you found your path, Jake. Everyone deserves a chance to grow. As Jake walked away, Lisa felt a sense of closure. Their story had come full circle, not as a romance, but as a testament to the power of growth, forgiveness, and self-discovery. Years later, Lisa stood on the stage of another awards ceremony, this time accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award for her work with Empower Her. The audience was filled with the people who had supported her along the way. Marisol, Emily, her team, and even Jake, who had become a respected mentor in his own right. As Lisa looked out at the crowd, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Her journey had been far from easy, but every challenge had shaped her into the person she was today. In life, she said, her voice steady and clear, we are often told who we are supposed to be. But the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to define that for ourselves. My journey is proof that we are stronger than we think, braver than we believe, and capable of more than we ever imagined. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. The applause was thunderous, and as Lisa stepped off the stage, she knew this was just the beginning. Her story wasn't about the past, it was about the future she was helping to build, one step at a time. Lisa sat in her office, gazing at a world map pinned to the wall. Small markers indicated the locations where Empower Her programs had been established, urban centers, rural communities, and everything in between. But now, her gaze shifted toward continents and countries still untouched by her mission. She felt both excitement and apprehension about the next chapter, taking Empower Her global. The decision had been years in the making, and the demand was clear. Emails and messages flooded in from people around the world, asking for Empower Her programs in their own communities. But Lisa knew that expanding internationally would require more than passion and determination. It would mean navigating cultural differences, building trust with local organizations, and adapting her methods to fit the unique needs of each region. Ready for the next big step? Marisol asked as she walked into Lisa's office, setting down a cup of coffee. Lisa smiled, shaking her head. As ready as I'll ever be. It's overwhelming. This isn't just a new chapter, it's a whole new book. Marisol chuckled. Well, you've written some pretty amazing chapters so far. I have no doubt this one will be just as good. The first international pilot program was set to launch in Nairobi, Kenya, in partnership with a local organization dedicated to empowering girls through education. Lisa traveled there with her team, eager to meet their new collaborators and understand the community's specific challenges. As the plane descended over Nairobi, Lisa's nerves kicked in. She had prepared for this moment meticulously, researching, planning, and coordinating, but stepping onto foreign soil brought a new level of uncertainty. Would her methods translate? Would the program resonate with people who lived lives so different from her own? The bustling streets of Nairobi were alive with energy, and Lisa was greeted warmly by the local team. Their leader, Amina, was a powerhouse in her own right, a former teacher who had dedicated her life to creating opportunities for girls in underserved areas. Her passion matched Lisa's, and the two women quickly bonded over their shared mission. I'm excited to work with you, Lisa, Amina said as they toured the program site, a modest but vibrant community center. But I have to be honest, some of the girls are skeptical. They've seen a lot of promises go unfulfilled. Lisa nodded, understanding the weight of Amina's words. I get it. This isn't about us coming in and telling people what to do. It's about listening, learning, and building something together. The first workshop was a mix of excitement and apprehension. Dozens of girls gathered in the community center, their curious eyes fixed on Lisa and her team. The workshop began with introductions, and as each girl shared her name and a little about herself, Lisa was struck by the diversity of their experiences. Some spoke of dreams to become doctors or engineers. Others shared the struggles they faced just to attend school. One girl, Fatima, stood out. She was quiet and reserved, her arms crossed protectively over her chest. When it was her turn to speak, she simply said, "I'm here because I have to be." Lisa noticed the faint eye rolls from some of the other girls and made a mental note to talk to Fatima later. The workshop focused on self-esteem and goal setting, two pillars of the Empower Her philosophy. The exercises were simple but powerful. writing affirmations, envisioning future goals, and sharing words of encouragement with one another. By the end of the day, the room was filled with laughter and connection. Fatima, however, remained on the sidelines, her expression guarded. As the girls filed out, Lisa approached her. "Hey," Lisa said softly, sitting next to her. "I noticed you didn't say much today." "That's okay, I just wanted to check in and see how you're feeling." Fatima hesitated, then shrugged. "I don't know why I'm here. My life isn't going to change just because I write some words on paper." Lisa's heart ached at the resignation in her voice. "I get it," she said. "It's hard to believe in something when the world feels like it's against you. But you have so much strength, Fatima. I see it. And I think, deep down, you see it too." Fatima didn't respond, but something in her expression softened. Lisa knew it would take time, but she was determined to show Fatima, and all the girls, that they were capable of more than they realized. Over the next few weeks, the program gained momentum. The workshops expanded to include topics like leadership, financial literacy, and health education, tailored to the community's needs. Lisa worked closely with Amina to ensure the program was sustainable, training local mentors who could continue the work long after Lisa's team returned home. One afternoon, Lisa received a surprise visit from Fatima. She walked into the community center, clutching a notebook to her chest. "I wrote something," Fatima said quietly, avoiding eye contact. "I thought maybe you'd want to read it." Lisa smiled, taking the notebook. As she read, her chest tightened with emotion. Fatima had written a letter to her future self, describing the life she wanted to build, a life filled with courage, education, and independence. "This is beautiful, Fatima," Lisa said, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "You're an incredible writer. Thank you for sharing this with me." Fatima shrugged, but Lisa caught the faintest hint of a smile on her face. The Nairobi program became a model for future expansions. Lisa's team traveled to India, Brazil, and the Philippines, collaborating with local organizations to empower her to the unique needs of each community. In Mumbai, they partnered with a group that supported young entrepreneurs. In Rio de Janeiro, they focused on providing safe spaces for girls in high-crime areas. In Manila, the emphasis was on access to technology and digital literacy. Each location brought new challenges. Language barriers, cultural differences, and logistical hurdles tested Lisa and her team at every turn. But with each obstacle came new lessons, and Lisa grew as a leader, learning to adapt and listen in ways she never had before. One of the most rewarding moments came during a visit to Rio, where Lisa met a group of girls who had started a small business selling handmade jewelry. They had used the profits to fund after-school programs for younger children in their neighborhood. "You've created something amazing," Lisa told them, her voice filled with pride. "You're not just changing your own lives, you're changing your community." As Empower Her celebrated its first year of international programs, Lisa reflected on how far the organization had come. What had started as a personal journey had grown into a global movement, touching the lives of thousands of girls around the world. But for Lisa, the most meaningful moments weren't the awards or accolades. It was the stories. The girl who became the first in her family to attend college. The young entrepreneur who turned her dream into reality. The writer who found her voice. At the end of the day, Lisa knew the work was far from over. There were still so many girls waiting to be reached, so many barriers to be broken. But as she looked at the world map in her office, now dotted with even more markers, she felt a deep sense of gratitude and purpose. She was building something bigger than herself, something that would outlast her and continue to grow. And in doing so, she had found not only her voice but a global chorus of voices joining her in the fight for empowerment, equality, and hope. Lisa's expansion into international territories marked a turning point for Empower Her. The success in Nairobi, Mumbai, Rio de Janeiro, and Manila fueled momentum, but Lisa knew this was just the beginning. For every program she started, there were countless more communities in need. She didn't just want to build workshops, she wanted to create systemic change. One afternoon, Lisa sat in a video call with her team, brainstorming the next phase of Empower HER's growth. Marisol was there, as well as Amina from Nairobi, Priya from Mumbai, and a few new leaders who had joined from other regions. We've done incredible work so far, Lisa said, her tone equal parts proud and determined. But we can't stop here. I want to focus on scalability. How do we reach more girls, faster, without losing the personal touch that makes Empower Her so impactful? Amina nodded thoughtfully. We've seen how powerful local mentorship is. But what if we combine that with virtual tools? Not every community has the infrastructure for in-person workshops, but most have access to phones or the internet. That's a great idea, Priya chimed in. We could create an online platform with resources, video sessions, and a way to connect mentors with ments globally. Lisa leaned forward, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Let's do it. We'll call it Empower Her Connect. Over the next 6 months, Lisa and her team poured their energy into building the platform. Empower Her Connect was designed to be accessible, offering free courses on topics like confidence building, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. It also included a mentorship program where girls could connect with role models from all over the world. The launch was a monumental effort, but the payoff was immediate. Within weeks, thousands of users had signed up, and the stories began pouring in. A young woman in rural Vietnam used the platform to learn how to start a small business. A teenager in South Africa found a mentor who encouraged her to apply for a scholarship. A girl in a remote Alaskan village connected with others who shared her struggles, realizing she wasn't alone. Lisa spent hours reading the messages, her heart swelling with pride. But as the platform grew, so did the challenges. Managing a global online community was no small feat, and Lisa found herself juggling technical issues, funding concerns, and the ever-present need for cultural sensitivity. One night, as Lisa worked late in her office, Marisol called. Lisa, you've been burning the candle at both ends again, haven't you? Lisa laughed, though her exhaustion was evident. You know me too well. You've done amazing things, but you need to take care of yourself, Marisol said gently. Empower Her won't collapse if you take a day off. Lisa sighed, knowing Marisol was right. The weight of the organization often felt like it rested squarely on her shoulders, but she had a team she trusted. People like Amina and Priya who shared her vision and could carry it forward. Okay, Lisa said. One day off. But only because you're relentless. That's my job, Marisol replied with a chuckle. The next day, Lisa reluctantly stepped away from her laptop and spent the morning walking through a park near her home. The crisp air and rustling leaves reminded her of why she had started this journey, to create a world where girls didn't have to fight so hard to be seen and valued. As she sat on a bench, sipping a cup of coffee, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from Fatima, the girl she had mentored in Nairobi. Lisa opened it, her curiosity piqued. Hi, Lisa. I wanted to share some good news. I just got accepted into university. I'm going to study education so I can help girls like me see their potential. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. Lisa felt tears prick her eyes. Messages like this were her fuel, a reminder that every late night and difficult decision was worth it. As Empower Her Connect grew, Lisa was invited to speak at the United Nations about the power of mentorship and education. Standing at the podium, with delegates from around the world watching, she felt the weight of the moment. I stand here today as someone who was once told she wasn't enough, Lisa began. Not smart enough, not pretty enough, not thin enough. But I'm here because I learned to redefine what enough means. And now, I'm fighting to make sure every girl has the tools, the support, and the belief to define it for herself. The applause was thunderous, but what stayed with Lisa was the conversation she had afterward with a young delegate from Afghanistan. Your story gives me hope, the delegate said. I want to bring Empower Her to my village. My sisters and I dream of opening a school one day. Lisa promised to help, and the two exchanged contact information. The encounter sparked a new idea, one that would take Empower Her into the most underserved and marginalized communities. Back at her office, Lisa gathered her team to pitch the new initiative, Empower Her Grassroots. Unlike the larger programs, this initiative would focus on small, community-driven efforts led by local women. The goal was to provide resources and training to help them start their own workshops, tailored to their specific needs. This isn't about us coming in and taking over, Lisa explained. It's about empowering communities to lead themselves. The idea was met with enthusiasm, and soon, Empower Her Grassroots was underway. Lisa traveled to remote areas, meeting women who were eager to make a difference in their communities. She listened to their stories, shared her own, and worked with them to build programs that felt authentic and sustainable. In a small village in Afghanistan, Lisa met Aisha, a 20-year-old who had been teaching girls in her home despite the risks. Aisha's determination reminded Lisa of her own journey, and together, they built a program that provided not just education, but hope. Years later, Empower Her had become a global movement, with programs in over 50 countries and millions of participants. Lisa's name had become synonymous with empowerment and resilience, but she remained humble, always emphasizing the collective effort behind the success. One evening, as Lisa stood in her office looking at the now crowded world map, Marisol joined her. "Not bad for a girl who started with a dare," Marisol said, nudging Lisa playfully. Lisa laughed. "Not bad at all. But seriously," Marisol continued, "look at what you've built. This is more than a non-profit, it's a revolution." Lisa nodded, her heart full. "And it's only the beginning." As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the map, Lisa felt a sense of peace. Her journey had been one of pain, growth, and triumph, but it had never been just about her. It was about the girls and women whose lives had been changed, and the countless more who would carry the torch forward. She wasn't just building a movement. She was building a legacy,